So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, there looks like there's been another offer made to Kell Brook in order to make this fight with Terence Crawford. He's been offered $2 million to fight Terence Crawford. I think the deal is closing. I think Kell Brook's probably going to accept that offer. I think it's about fair. I do think 1.5 was a bit less. I do think $2 million within the current climate is fair. And I think Kell Brook probably has nowhere to go, in the sense that I don't think he knows that he's probably not going to get another fight of this magnitude with anyone else. It's a decent payday, $2 million to fight Terence Crawford. I'm not sure Kell Brook was going to get any more than that in any other fight. The only other fight is the one that, we always talk about, but never going to happen. So this is probably the highest payday that Kell Brook's going to get. And I think it makes sense for him to take it, especially in the current climate today. I don't think there's huge money out there for many fighters, only the top ones. So I think $2 million is a fair offer now. I think 1.5 was definitely a bit less, but I think I said that I think 2 million would be fair, and Kell Brook should accept it if he got offered that. And now we know that Top Rank are offering him that money. So I think it makes sense for Kell Brook to take that offer. Now, there is a dispute where the fight's going to happen. I personally would like the fight to happen in the UK, but I think Terence Crawford and his team probably wants the fight in the US. Now, I don't know how that's going to work. I personally think now it's going to work, because the problem is initially the problem is how are they going to pay the guys, but I think Kell Brook has accepted $2 million, which is not that much, if I'm honest with you. So would they have to put that fight on pay-per-view? Possibly. I don't think so now, because I think 2 million's not a massive purse. So I think they would have covered that. And I think if they can get a crowd in there, I think they may be able to make that money back. So I think because of Kell Brook accepting $2 million, I don't think they've had to pay him huge amount of money. Whereas obviously with Khan, for example, where they had to pay him $5 million, there was no choice for them to put it on pay-per-view, because they were paying him so much money. They had to put that fight on pay-per-view in order to recuperate the cost. Here they've only paid Kell Brook $2 million, so it's not as much. So I think they'll be able to get a crowd in there. I think by November, hopefully they'll be able to get a certain limit, or maybe 10,000 or maybe 5,000 crowd-wise, which will help pay these guys salaries for the fight. So yeah, I think, or purses, I should say, for the fight. So yeah, I think it's a fair offer of $2 million. Kell Brook, I think, is probably happy with it, and I think he's probably going to accept it. And let's get it on. I would like that fight to happen in the UK, but for some reason it tells me that I think Terence Crawford wants to fight in America. I don't think he wants to come to the UK, especially with what's happening now in the UK. I'm not sure we're going to get that fight in the UK. With this pandemic, I think Terence Crawford probably just wants to stay at home. So I think that fight probably happens in America. So Kell Brook would have to go over there and beat another American. I think obviously this isn't Sean Porter. I think this is a much higher caliber of fighter that he's going to be fighting. Also, it's a different time in Kell Brook's career. If I'm honest with you, I think for me personally, I think for Kell Brook to win this fight, I personally think I would prefer him to fight Terence Crawford here. I just give him a lot bigger chance in front of his own fans here in the UK than I would. Who knows? There may not be a crowd for this fight. In that case, it doesn't matter where it happens. But I do think if there are crowds available, or crowds are allowed to come to the fight, then I would like to see that fight here in the UK, just because I think Kell Brook would stand a better chance against Terence Crawford in the UK in front of his own fans. Like I said, he did beat Sean Porter in America. However, that was a different time against a different fighter and a different Kell Brook. We're now talking about a 34-year-old Kell Brook. So I think he needs all the advantages he can get in order to, come out victorious. And having the fight in the UK would be a massive advantage to him, because he'd be fighting in front of his hometown fans, or fighting in front of his home crowd. So that would be obviously the advantage for him. He'll still be an underdog no matter where the fight takes place, but I will just give him a much better chance if the fight happens here. So I do hope the fight happens here. because it would give Kell Brook a much better chance of winning against Terence Crawford. To be honest, I'm looking forward to it. If this fight does get announced, which I expect it to, I am looking forward to this fight. I really want to see Kell Brook in there with Terence Crawford. Firstly, I want to see how Terence Crawford does against Kell Brook, and I want to see what Kell Brook's got left and how well he does against Terence Crawford, because I think it's a good fight. Listen, obviously, I think Kell Brook has a chance. I'm giving Kell Brook a chance to win this fight. I do think Terence Crawford is a big favourite. However, unlike all the other British fans that think Kell Brook's going to get destroyed in 3-4 rounds, right? Just go and see all the comments on social media. I'm one of them that thinks he's got a chance in this fight early. I think he's got a chance early. If this fight goes past 6 rounds, it's over for me. I don't think he wins this fight at all. I think Terence Crawford's class will tell after 6. I think in the first 6 rounds, he's got a chance. He's got a big chance in the first 6. I just think his freshness, his size, his power could show up. But I think late as the fight wears on, I don't think Kell Brook's going to win the fight as the fight, goes on past the first 6 rounds. So yeah, let's see. Let's see if Kell Brook can pull off a massive upset. This will probably be up there if Kell Brook can pull it off with one of the biggest British wins ever. Because he would be going in there as a massive underdog. This fight is probably 90-10 in Terence Crawford's favour in a lot of people's opinions. Honestly, the kind of comments, no one's giving Kell Brook a chance. His own fans aren't giving him a chance. His own UK fans aren't giving Kell Brook a chance. But I'm giving him a chance. I'm giving Kell Brook a chance. Right? And you guys call me biased. I'm the only one that's probably giving him a chance. And I'm giving him a decent chance. I think Crawford will win. I think Crawford's a favourite. But I'm not going to predict Kell Brook winning. But I do think Kell Brook can win this fight. I do think, I've told you how I think he wins it. I think he knocks him out in the first 6 if he's going to win. That's my opinion. Now, some people think that Kell Brook will go 12 rounds against Crawford. I don't see it. I don't see it just because of the fact that I think Kell Brook's going to tire. He's fighting at 147. He hasn't fought at 147 for a very long time. He struggles to make the weight. He's going to tire down the stretch. Crawford's going to start picking him apart at the end in the championship rounds. He's going to tire. Unfortunately, he's going to tire. Right? So that's my take on it. I think Kell Brook's best chance is in the first 6, jump on him and knock him out. That's what he's got to do. And I think he can win. Unlike everybody else who thinks he gets destroyed. So yeah, that's my take on it. Hopefully this fight gets announced very soon, and we get to see it. Now, guys, I want to move on to my second part of the video. Guys, I've been having debate with Kell Brook fans about the Spence fight, and the fact that a lot of Kell Brook fans have been coming at me saying that, Kell Brook would have beaten Errol Spence if he didn't break his eye socket. Guys, I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated with this talk, right? Because in boxing, right, the purpose of the opponent is to damage his opponent. He's coming in there to inflict damage onto the opponent where he wants to put you in a position where he can win the fight. He wants to knock you out. He wants to break your jaw. These are the things that fighters want to do when they get in the ring. They want to inflict damage on the opponents and they can win, right? Errol Spence broke Kell Brook's eye socket, right? It didn't come with a headbutt. It didn't come with an illegal shot. He broke it with a punch. That's part and parcel of boxing. Carl Frampton broke Scott Quigg's jaw. Scott Quigg didn't come after the fight and say, I lost that fight because I broke my jaw. That's part of boxing. These things happen in boxing. And the other one is that they're saying that Kell Brook wasn't knocked out. He took a knee because he couldn't see. Guys, these are technical terms in boxing, right? If the fight is stopped before 12 rounds, there's 2 things that it's classified as. Either as a TKO loss or either as a KO, right? In Kell Brook's Errol Spence fight, if you go on BoxRec, it clearly says there he was KO'd. Right? In the Golovkin fight, he was TKO'd because his corner threw in the towel. right? They're still classified as knockout losses. There's no such thing as taking a knee in boxing. There's nothing classified as taking a knee. That's not a technical term in boxing. There's either two things: technical knockout or knockout loss, right? I don't want to... Listen, I have nothing against Kell Brook. He's a good fighter. He's done well. But to spin a narrative that, Errol Spence wouldn't have won that fight if Kell Brook wasn't, Kell Brook didn't break his eye socket when Errol Spence was the one that was in there that broke his eye socket with punches, right? Is nonsense. Kell Brook would have won the fight if Golovkin didn't break his eye sockets. That's like me. That's like if I was in a ring and I broke my nose and the opponent broke my nose. I said I would have won the fight if the opponent didn't break my nose. It's rubbish. It's part of boxing. Boxing's a very hard sport. It's a tough sport. It's a ruthless sport, right? When you get in the ring, like I said, the opponent's aim is to inflict damage onto you. And sometimes when they're fighting in the ring, yes, breaks happen. You break your jaw, you break your nose, you break your eye sockets, you break your eardrum drum. These things happen in boxing. Let me tell you this. Let's go back to the TKO bit where they were saying Kell Brook's not knocked out. In my opinion, right, everybody says that the reason why I hate on Kell Brook is because of Khan, right? In my opinion, Amir Khan was knocked out against Terence Crawford. He was knocked out. It was a stoppage loss. Even though Khan got hit low, but the rules in boxing are, if you get hit low, right, you get 5 minutes. If you are not able to come out after 5 minutes, you have been technically knocked out. You have been knocked out. Amir Khan was technically knocked out against Terence Crawford. He wasn't physically knocked out against Terence Crawford. Kell Brook wasn't physically out against against Spence or Golovkin, but he was technically knocked out. Against Spence, he was KO'd because he couldn't continue. And that's, if you go on BoxRec, it clearly says KO. In the Golovkin fight, because his corner threw in the towel, it's called a technical knockout. Right? That's a knockout loss. Amir Khan suffered a knockout loss against Terence Crawford. He wasn't physically knocked out, but he was technically knocked out. According to the rules and according to the terminology in boxing, he was knocked out. So Deontay Wilder was knocked out against Tyson Fury. He was technically knocked out. The corner threw in the towel exactly the same way against the way Golovkin and Brook, the corner threw in the towel. Do you want me to sit here and say that Deontay Wilder wasn't knocked out against Tyson Fury? Of course he was knocked out. Of course he was stopped. The same way Brook was stopped. Now, yes, he wasn't splattered out on the floor like Khan was against Canelo or like Pacquiao was against Marquez, but he was stopped in the fight. The fight was stopped before 12 rounds. There's either only two things that can be classified as a TKO loss or as a KO loss. Errol Spence was a KO loss. Golovkin was a TKO loss. There's no such thing as breaking your eye sockets and taking a knee. That's not a terminology in boxing. Taking a knee is not a terminology in boxing. You either have a TKO loss against your name or a KO loss. Listen, I just told you, for me, Amir Khan was knocked out against Crawford. He was technically knocked out against Terence Crawford. So, of course, Kell Brook was knocked out against Spence and Golovkin, in my opinion. They were knockout losses. They were knockout losses. Just because a guy's not splattered out on the floor, that doesn't mean that he's not suffered a knockout loss. A knockout loss just isn't what happened to Dillian White. A knockout loss for me is what happened to Khan against Garcia, is what happened to Khan against Crawford. These are all considered knockout losses. So I'm not here saying it because it's Kell Brook. I would be saying exactly the same thing if it was Amir Khan. I just said to you that I think Amir Khan was knocked out against Terence Crawford. For me, he was stopped in that fight. So if he was stopped in that fight against Crawford, what makes the Kell Brook situation any different? Just because he had broke his eye socket, right, that doesn't mean that we can't classify that as a knockout loss. In boxing, they're considered knockout losses. Yes, he wasn't physically on the canvas, unconscious. Yes, I understand that. But in boxing, when you lose before 12 rounds, there's either two things that we classify it as. We either classify it as a TKO loss or as a KO loss. It's as simple as that. I don't know what's so hard to understand about that. I'm just telling you facts. I'm just telling you that I think Khan was knocked out against Crawford. In my opinion, he was technically knocked out against Terence Crawford. That was a stoppage loss. So I hope I've cleared it up. This isn't anything against Kell Brook. This is, I'm telling you what I feel happened according to boxing, according to rules, according to BoxRec, which is a credible source. They also agree with me because they had him losing by KO against Spence, and they had him losing against Golovkin by TKO, and Khan lost by TKO against Terence Crawford. It doesn't say, oh well, he got hit low and that's why he lost. It says he was knocked out. He was technically knocked out. So that's my opinion about it. Leave your thoughts, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll get back to you in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next video.